we're continuing with our amazing series here of conversations that we have on the Transnet podcast series for 2025. Continuing here at the sidelines of the mining Indaba, taking place in the city of Cape Town, and it's a hive of activity. If you've caught up on our previous conversations, you'd be well aware that we've been building up and fully understanding the various layers that are entailed when it comes to the repositioning of Transnet as a group and its operational divisions to become even more collaborative in pursuing opportunities that really propel significant growth. Now, today we're building up on fully understanding what this does mean specifically when it comes to opportunities around the LNG pipework. This is an opportunity to really bolster not only the economic performance of South Africa as a country, but just a significant supply of energy as a resource. We'll be giving you some updates and conversations with key speakers here who are going to join us in the conversation. And of course, with the participation of a few key stakeholders as well on the sidelines here of the mining Indaba. I'm joined by two significant players who are going to give us some context into understanding the opportunity that does exist specifically when it comes to the Richards Bay LNG terminal. Joined back in conversation today by the Acting Chief Executive for Transnet National Courts Authority, Advocate Phyllis Difeto, who joins us. And of course, not forgetting the active participation of Russell Bradbrooke. He joins us as the General Manager of Capital and Strategic Projects at Transnet Hi-Fi. Such a pleasure to have you both.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I'm excited for this conversation because I think for many of us who might not, understand the important role and function, not only of LNG as a gas and of course a resource in terms of energy, but more so the infrastructure that's also required to facilitate this process. Maybe let's just start by contextualizing the process to establish the Richards Bay LNG gas terminal. Advocate Difeto, give us some context here, because you don't just plug a pipe in the ground and say, well, now we're moving this resource. There's a whole process behind it.
Whole process, and thank you very much. I mean, reflecting on yesterday, you left me ticky, like a ticking ball. So today is explosion. I had to bring Russell. We are exploding with all the opportunities that are available in the court environment, but also Transnet as a whole. Let me just briefly talk about the Liquefied Natural Gas project for the Port of Richards Bay. Just an overview. As we said, we must give you just a background on what happened before we can even talk about the award being granted to the successful readers. As the National Ports Authority, we are mandated by the National Ports Act to play a strategic role when it comes to supply, logistics chain and trade, as well as economic development and job creation in the country. So through our port development framework plans, we go out and process the major developments within the port environment. So LNG development program is just one of them. We've targeted in terms of our PDFPs for the Port of Muha, for the Port of Richards Bay, and for the Port of Saldanha, the LNG terminals. Now, for the Port of Muha and the Port of Richards Bay, I can say they are at an advanced stage, and that's why today we'll be focusing on the Port of Richards Bay. One important factor I want to mention through the info is that these two projects, they are part of the top 12 presidential priority infrastructure projects, which were announced in March 2024 by the President of the Republic of South Africa. And both these projects, they hold strategic integrated project SIP status. So we give them the closest and the very urgent attention that they deserve. Now, the TNPA LNG projects are aligned with the Department of Mineral Resources and Energies plans to deliver the 6,000 megawatt of gas to power in South Africa. The 6,000 megawatt is split into 3,000 megawatt as per the Integrated Resource Plan, IRP, and the other 3,000 megawatt, which is for Eskom's new generation in Richards Bay. Now, what we've done as the port environment, we went out to market on the 15th of December 2022, where we issued the request for proposal, that's the RFP, for the appointment of a terminal operator to design, develop, finance, construct, operate, and maintain an LNG terminal at the South Juice precinct in the Port of Richards Bay. And this is a concession of 25 years. And we have done that in line with the mandate of the National Ports Act. This process was done in compliance with Section 56. the public, the inquiries, they always hear us talking about a Section 56 process, and that is where it's coming from, in line with the National Ports Act. And this resulted in the appointment of a consortium between VOPAC and Transnet Pipelines as the preferred bidder to develop the now duped Zululand Energy Terminal, the Z. The LNG terminal in Richards Bay is going to enable us to introduce the gas to power for both interested independent power producers and ESCO, as outlined in the South African's energy plan. So that is the process that we've taken to make sure that they come in on board as the successful bidders.
Got you. Before we understand more about this process, right, Russell, and what you actually had to do, I'm quite keen to understand just how rigorous it is, right? Because we know governance and controls are very important to South Africans. And as you've mentioned, this was announced in 2022, and we've got the process and progress that's been made in the last 2 years. Phyllis, how extensive is it to tick all the boxes to make sure that the partners appointed are the correct ones to go?
Okay, that's a very important point, because always we get confronted with governance challenges. When you get to a point where you issue an award and we hear that there are other parties who are challenging the award, you don't want to get to that space. Our governance processes have been very firm, took time, and in compliance with the concession manuals that we have developed, and which was approved even at a board level, to say, when we have a concession process, what are the issues that we have to tick to make sure that everything is in compliance with the requirement of that manual. Firstly, we also start with a team, a multidisciplinary team comprised of various experts within National Ports Authority, those that are going to go and evaluate all the bidders, the process that they followed to submit their bids, but also allowing them an opportunity to engage if there are any questions for clarification, so that we avoid external conversations. Everything is channeled through that governance team. So that multidisciplinary team comprises of, for example, procurement, commercial specialists, funding specialists, infrastructure specialists. They sit down and have those conversations to assess the bid, and thereafter they will have to submit it to the governance processes in TNPA to make sure that it gets approval at the TNPA Exco level, and including our board, of course, so that they know, because our board, they also monitor the activities when it comes to concessions and the Section 79s that are mostly related to infrastructure development in the port system.
100%. And this is important because just yesterday we touched on the important role that is played by TNPA in terms of being independent as a regulatory body. Russell, sounds like you and your team had a lot of work ahead of you, but this is something that is not for the short term. It really can contribute and shift the economic opportunities that do exist in South Africa and beyond. Maybe talk us through the process, in particular, the identification of VOPAC as a consortium and pathway.
Yeah, so in around 2022 when this came out, TPL had to, obviously we were interested in the gas side of it, because we had what's called the gas lily pipeline in our infrastructure, which runs from Secunda down to Empangeni and to Durban. So that infrastructure we have, and essentially Sasol's been operating that infrastructure for us, but it's there, and we saw this as now the opportunity to be able to bring the LNG. And so what we needed to do was identify companies around the world that had LNG experience, and also ideally you wanted an operator, not necessarily of LNG but in facility in South Africa, it's the first one, but an operator of that international, and preferably a company that's operating in this country. So VOPAC ticked those boxes, but anyway, we went out to the market. VOPAC became our preferred supplier, and through that, then we they won that, let's call it submission to TPL, and then from that, in terms of that inquiry that went out to the market from TNPA, then we set up a joint development approach to putting a submission in. In terms of trying to work out how to do this, and obviously capital constraints and stuff like that, we chose to be, as TPL and Transnet took a minority shareholding in this. So we took a 25% role. The Vopak taken 75%. They've got obviously a BE component in there through Ratilli. So that's how that went through. We bid it, and then we were successful in January 24, where we got the preferred bidder status. And that's how we got today.
And I think this is important, right? Because by opening up and having collaborative opportunities and partnerships in place, this really just heightens the level of competitiveness and competency. And I think that's something that we need to emphasize. That is a shift in terms of the re-energization and the growth strategy of Transnet as a group, but TPL in particular. Help us understand just the context, the magnitude of the economic contribution that will be made here.
Well, we've got a gas cliff come. So let's just
describe what that is. Gas
cliff. So you got a situation where the gas coming into the country is coming from Tamani Pandi fields through the Sasol or Romco pipeline.
Mozambique
coming. So what happened is a few years ago, Sasol said they were going to cut the MRG supply along that pipeline into the country in mid-2026, which meant that all the infrastructure industries that are sitting in Gauteng, sitting in KZN, who are using that what's called methane-rich gas, would be cut. And really that was because Sasol needed it for their plant in Secunda, and therefore due to dwindling demand, dwindling supply, they needed to focus on their area and cut that. So that's where all of a sudden this gas cliff came. That became a major issue in terms of meeting 2026, in terms of these projects being government type projects. They are always late in terms of kicking off. So as a result of that, Sasol then started looking at what could they do to push that window out. They then came out, I'm trying to think now, it must be maybe 18 months ago or something, where they said they'll push that to the middle of 27 with the methane-rich gas. And then they also said they're striving to extend that to mid-28. That's, I think, should be confirmed shortly from Sasol.
Got you.
But yeah.
And just in terms of the pipeline, from what I understand, when it comes to the actual infrastructure, there's 3,800 kilometers here.
Yeah.
For those of us who can't see the pipes, they don't fully comprehend it, just help us contextualize what this means, this new investment, this new partnership. We've got the green light from the TNPA. How does this expand the opportunities in terms of the movement?
Yes, so as you say, the TPL infrastructure is 3,800 kilometers of pipeline. The bulk of that is in liquid fuel service. That being approximately 3,200 of that was in liquid fuels. About 600 kilometers of that 3,008 we've essentially decommissioned. So that leaves about, let's call it around 600 kilometers in gas. That gas pipeline originally was a crude pipeline that was used as we never used to know the major storage for in case of sanctions.
Yeah.
So way back when. So that was that. And then after the change in government, they had to look at reusing that, and it became a gas pipeline. So there are constraints in terms of that gas pipeline. The fact is that typically for these gas pipelines, you would like them to be able to operate 90 bar, 120 bar, this type of level. And our pipeline, because it was converted, is only good for, at the moment, about 53 bar. And we're looking in terms of this thing of pushing it up to about 58. The importance, if we actually look at this, is it's not just a terminal. There's, in essence, from a Transnet pipelines perspective, we've got two projects. Whereas TNPA's got the terminal side of it. It's TPL. We've got the Lily, which is 100% owned and having to, let's call it debottleneck it for the use of this terminal.
Got you.
And then we've also got our component in the terminal, where in terms of building this new terminal of about, let's say for phase one, it's called about 2 million tons per annum, with the plan to go into phase two of around 5 million tons per annum. Timelines, to get an idea, we are pushing for Q1 28 for to get the terminal built for phase 1. We are pushing for Q4 27 for upgrading to our Lily pipeline to meet the 2 million tons per annum. But in terms of going up to, let's say, the 5 million tons per annum and things, that is outside of, call it, the gas components. It's around the 2030s. And similarly, our Lily upgrade is later.
Got you. And this is important, right? Because as you're describing this, it really does show, I guess, that not only the history, but also the diversified approach that has been taken to make sure that the energy sources are supplied. But there's opportunity as well for us to do so in a sustainable manner. A question to the both of you, but I guess I'll start with you, Advocate Phyllis. This really sounds like a greenfields project, especially given that the focus on LNG and new, more efficient energy supplies are coming through the pipelines. Help us understand why at TNPA this remains critical and important, but also been a new avenue of making sure that the controls are in place. Ever heard
is the one point that I would love to mention is once it's also talking about the constraints, is that there are currently no LNG receiving terminals in South Africa.
Got you. And maybe we need you to come closer to the mic to emphasize this and emphasize
the great achievements for us. So as I said, there are no LNG receiving terminals in South Africa. Out of the 170 that are available worldwide, only 11 are in Africa. One that we are going to build now in South Africa is the first of its kind. And that's why we are very excited about it. Also, the introduction of LNG in South Africa with Richards Bay being the first in line is going to play a crucial role addressing the country's energy and electricity challenges. As it's going to introduce additional gas-to-power-based electricity generation. In addition to that, we have noted that SA has one important, and I know he touched on it briefly, which brings LNG via Mozambique. We realized the need as TNPA to say, in order for this energy mix and also to be in line with the DMER policy position, this project is strategically aligned to meet the needs, the economic need of this country, and also the commercial requirements, including the decarbonization efforts that we are bringing not only in this country, but worldwide. So that is why we are taking this project very seriously, and it's a key major stone for us, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, as I said, call it the complexity of this, if you talk about the greater idea of this project, it's just not just a terminal. As we said, there are so many players that making this successful is quite incredible. I mean, I scribbled down, you've got TNPA at the port side, right? You've got Vopak and Terminal, TPL trying to say, let's do the terminal. You've got Richards Bay, IDZ, who are going to have to link almost the new trunk line from the terminal to Lily into the Eskom users and IPP. So you've got an interface there. You've got an Eskom and IPP. You've got TPL needing to upgrade its Lily pipeline for ever use in terms of if there's increased demand, say down in Durban, Avon, up at Secunda. You've got a Romco pipeline and a Lily pipeline that don't join, but they're only a few Ks apart. And so the issue around that would be probably getting Sasol to join the two pipelines by their factory, which will then open up the opportunity of, let's say, dual supply into the Gauteng area. Right. So if you look at that, that's a lot of players and a lot of interfacing.
A lot of interfacing, 100%. But the beauty about it is that it underscores the opportunity for growth, right, in terms of collaborative efforts. And I want us to wrap up just by observing, as you've mentioned, collaborative efforts, there's a clear governance and controls. It's a new opportunity to make sure that we just diversify the options in terms of energy in South Africa. And as we look around us today, not only do we see participants who are listening on their headphones to this conversation, but many key players as well within the mining and energy space. Even more that we might speak to outside of this, manufacturing environment. Help us contextualize how this shifts the needle for the key stakeholders who are here, whether they be in mining or other energy demanding industries in South Africa?
Well, I mean, politics is playing out that there's a move or a global move to go to green energy. I think with the developments in the US with Trump, I think things have slowed down a little bit on that front, but still,
We still made our commitment to South Africa.
it's still going to go there. So the one thing it does do, is that LNG is grey energy as it stands at the moment. Now, ideally, where the country wants to go is green, and if you look at it in terms of your traditional petrol, diesels seem to be quite dirty, even though so it is that transition of moving energy across to a cleaner energy source, and that even on the green side, I mean, that's a focus area for us going forward, because especially for Transnet pipelines, I mean, even though the absolute bulk of our business is petrol, diesel, I call it jet fuel, we can't spend our lives relying on that, because in the future, that's a dying business.
Yeah,
Huh?
exact.
So you have to move.
So we're moving, we're transitioning towards cleaner energy, and most importantly, we're making sure that the energy that's required for South Africa to be an industrialized economy is still in place, right? 100%. Such a pleasure speaking to the both of you. This has been absolute fun, and we're looking forward to the progress that will be made. I understand the 10th of Feb is a very important date.
Yep.
Very important date on Richards Bay. We will be signing the terminal operator agreement, and the message will come out as well. Please, for those who are listening, follow us on LinkedIn. We will be there.
That is. So it's the green light is going ahead.
Green light is going ahead.
Sounds like we started off with a tick, but you're right. This is explosive. Yeah. Thank you so much to the both of you. Really appreciate it, Russell. Thank you, Bradbrooke, who's joined us, and of course, Advocate Phyllis Difeto joining us as well to help us fully understand new opportunities that are being unlocked at the Richards Bay LNG terminal. Well, that's just where we wrap it for this episode of our Transnet podcast series.